Welcome to Be Inspired with PurelyB. I'm Jesrina. Now, by now, most of you would have heard that Malaysia is the fattest nation in Asia, according to the New York Times. And nearly half the adult population is overweight or obese. And it's clear that this nationwide epidemic for our food-loving nation needs to be addressed now. And today, I have with me Vishen Lakhiani, CEO of Mindvalley, and Dr. Sumithra Nadarajah, Functional Medicine Doctor from Thrive Health Clinic, to uncover what has led our food-loving nation to these alarming health risks that we have today and what we can do about it.
Fantastic. Can't wait to get started.
Yes. So, Vishen, let's get started. Let's deep dive into the viral videos, the food exposés that you've put out there on how the food industry is lying and profiting off misleading marketing to lead to these increase in obesity, diabetes, and these crazy health risks happening in Malaysia today. Now, before I get into that, we all know, it's no secret, that these health issues have always been there amongst Malaysians. And it's just worsening year on year. So why now? What led to you taking action today to these largest food corporations, and some might say beloved food corporations?
Beloved food corporations, exactly. Just like cigarettes were beloved in the 1950s. And if you look at Hollywood films in the 1950s, everyone is smoking, right? The human race is constantly evolving. We are constantly wisening up and waking up. And one of the things that we know now that we did not know in the 80s and in much of the 90s is the harmful effects of sugar. I mean, you guys have heard about that famous study of how sometime in the 50s, it was believed that fats were bad and sugars were fundamentally okay. In the 1990s, the science started getting overturned and people began to realize that a high-fat diet, low-carb, high-fat, is actually healthy, but a high-sugar diet is incredibly unhealthy. Now, the problem is many brands like Milo that have existed since the 60s and the 70s never updated their recipes. And so these companies were vested in sticking to an older paradigm. And because that older paradigm is what makes them money. Now, flash forward to today, 2018, we know that much of the things that we've been consuming as children that we were told were healthy, fundamentally bad for us. Milo was the one that I picked up on, and it wasn't like I was going against Milo. What I'm really against is food companies that have failed on their responsibility to society, to stakeholders, by living in denial or cognitive dissonance towards the science that's out there. Companies like Nestle claim that they want to be the world's greatest health and wellness company, but they routinely push sugar that since the 90s we've known is bad for your health. And worse, they create advertising for products like Milo that blatantly say that 4 out of 5 kids have suffered from energy gaps. And you heal these energy gaps by giving them a substance that in its powdered form is 40% sugar. That's not true. The scientists at Nestle probably know that. Scientists around the world know that. But Nestle continues perpetrating this lie because it's how they make money.
So then, if we're talking about empowering people with the knowledge, so now they're more educated, so they can make better choices. It doesn't matter to a certain degree if, let's say, Nestle didn't take action, but the consumers are smarter and they're not going to buy that product. And they may actually force the change inevitably.
And actually that did happen. Nestle just downgraded themselves from 4.5 stars to 1.5 stars in Australia and New Zealand within 3 weeks of the video being released. Now, I'm waiting for that to happen in Malaysia. You see, it's not just that Malaysians are not educated. It's that they are not educated, and food companies take advantage of this by using really powerful psychological marketing tactics to continue getting Malaysians to eat things wrong for them.
Dr. Sumi, do you have any thoughts on...
Well, I completely agree with providing foods that are nutritious for our kids in a way that you want it to be accessible as well, because I think a lot of the population relies on these convenience food because it's convenient, it's tasty, and they kind of close their eye to the fact that it is not necessarily the best for you. So my job would be to educate the public and create awareness, just like how you're trying to do at PurelyB, so that the public has a choice. They can choose whether or not to buy something that is processed or something that is healthier for them.
So that's why the whole spreading awareness creating that knowledge stream for them is very important. I think, you know, if all of us kind of combine forces to get that education out there, which I think, you know, the videos did do some level of awareness already. Obviously, there was controversy surrounding it, which we'll also talk about, but that's also because of the lack of awareness that created the controversy.
And honestly,
they come in defense.
The controversy was dumb. People were upset because I used the word like bullshit. I mean, come on, how old are you?
Was that the controversy? It was around words like that?
It was this guy, he's not a real Malaysian. He doesn't have a Malaysian accent.
Right,
it was just dumbness.
But it was also because they were coming in defense of the products, because they lack that awareness of not knowing all this. So I think that's the first step. But there's other products out there that they also need to be aware of, because in a typical Malaysian household, what do people cook with? Let's say soya sauce and all of that. People don't think there's anything wrong with soy sauce, but most of the product that they're buying is filled with sugar and preservatives. And this is your daily meal for your family. So it's not just those products that you need to be wary of. So,
Well, that's now scientific fact. If you look at the grocery stores in America, 74% of products sold in grocery stores in America, according to the book Food by Dr. Mark Hyman, are filled with sugar. Nutritionists are saying that in countries like Malaysia, the danger happens because the American diet, the Western diet, is coming to Malaysia. And this is why Malaysians start getting more obese. So nutritionists like Oz Garcia, I interviewed Oz Garcia, and he says, look, what Malaysians need to understand is that they need to go back to their authentic markets, the authentic Malaysian markets that we shopped with our parents as children, where we bought vegetables and we bought fruits that were fresh from our tropical rainforests.
And we have a lot of those.
Also buy things that have 5 or less ingredients in them. That's the other rule of thumb. If you want to buy something from a box, it has to have 5 ingredients or less. It has to have no numbers on them, and you should ideally be able to pronounce what's in them.
If you don't know what that is in your food, then don't buy it. I think that's like the rule of thumb, right?
So if you see a food substance with something like maltodextrin, right? Don't eat it. It's fake food, and it's not giving you any nutritional value. All it is a filler, and it's not healthy for you.
Yeah. So there are families out there that are taking steps to be healthier. They're making choices that they think is healthy for their family, but actually it's a complete opposite because they're not educated enough. So what do you think some of these common misconceptions may be, so we can address them and advise these families out there?
So in the developing world, especially in Malaysia, there are 5 myths about food that Malaysians have not woken up to yet. Now, different countries, America, Australia, most people, if you look at places like New York or California, where health consciousness is becoming more in vogue, people have woken up to these 5 myths, not in Malaysia. Now, the first myth is the sugar myth. Malaysians are fundamentally unaware of how bad sugar is. It's not just addictive, it doesn't just make you fat. In your children, there's now science that says that it reduces memory and cognition functioning. They've tested this on mice right now. This is emerging science. Now, the second myth has to do with fats. Fats are good. I start every day eating a quarter of a slab of butter. I put it in my morning juice. It sounds disgusting, and it is, but it's so good. Butter is needed for cognition, for brain functioning. Fats are good. Now, a recent study by Stanford University that was released 3 weeks ago showed that in diets, a low carb diet and a low fat diet both cause people to lose weight, right? But here's the thing: if you have a low carb diet, so you have low carbs and you have high fats, that's the optimal weight loss. So what you want to do is eat a lot of butter, eat a lot of ghee. Ghee is like a superfood, and that's from India, that's from Asia. But do not mix fats with carbs. So you do not want to put butter on your bread. But you know what you want to do? You want to take butter and put it on broccoli, put it on vegetables. That is really good for you. Now, the third myth is the calorie in, calorie out myth. It's nonsense. Stop counting
about counting calories. Completely agree.
The whole calorie in, calorie out myth is one of the things that food companies use to seduce you to eat crap. Okay, look, 100 calories
nuts are
of
filled
nuts,
with calories.
right?
Exactly.
100 calories of nuts is different from 100 calories of sugar. They're 2 completely different things, right? Stop counting calories. Instead, look at the combination of foods that you put in your body. Now, the fourth thing is exercise. So we believe here that you need to exercise to lose weight. Nestle pushes this, which is why if you look at Milo, it's filled with sugar, and then they put a sportsman on the tin. No real sportsman puts that shit in their body, okay? Exercise is responsible for between anywhere from 5 to 20% of your body shape. 80 to 95% is due to what you eat. And people don't get that.
Yeah.
So if you look in Malaysia, you see a lot of people who are obese jogging. And you see the same people every day in my neighborhood, and they never lose weight. It's because you don't lose weight by jogging. You can lose weight very rapidly in 90 days by changing what you eat. Exercise is not responsible for weight loss as much as we think. Now, the fifth myth is the most interesting. I do not talk about it in Malaysia because Malaysians are not ready for it.
Okay.
And the fifth myth
What is
that
that?
milk is bad for you. We think we need milk for healthy bones. It's nonsense. What milk does is it disrupts the pH level of your body. Now, to create a balance in your pH level, your bones dissolve so that you can rebalance your pH level. What does contribute to healthy bones is two things: vegetables and strength training.
I mean, those are some good points out there. I mean, like you were talking about calories, I mean, definitely agree with that. And low fats, for instance. I think that was one of the examples I was going to show you. These families think by picking low fat options, low sugar options, but they don't realize what is the product makeup when they have to remove those ingredients, what do they substitute it with? If it's low fat, it actually has more sugar in it to make up for the lack of fat, and that becomes even more damaging to
Exactly, because in the 50s, the sugar industry, now this is now popular knowledge, right? We all know this. This is now science. The sugar industry, back in the 50s, funded a study that was published in I think it was the New England Journal of Health, that talked about how fat was responsible for heart disease. Now, it turned out that the whole study was fake. The data was manipulated. It was funded by the sugar industry. This caused Americans to believe that fats were bad. And so low fat became a craze. Now, what happens when you take out fat from products? It tastes bad. So what do? You load it up with sugar. And so there was a direct correlation between obesity rates in America and the emergence of this dumb idea that low fat is healthy. Do not be drinking low fat milk. Do not be looking at anything that's low fat.
Well, Dr. Sumi, from a medical perspective, what are your thoughts of all these misconceptions, all these myths that Vishen has brought up and we just been discussing?
I absolutely agree, Jess. I think whatever he said is right, and that we have to have a shift now, a mindset shift of what exactly is good for you and what isn't, based on science. So we're not just cooking this up out of thin air. And based on my experience working with patients, when I take them off the foods that they think are healthy, the low fat, the what else? People always love to have, instead of rice, they would say, let's have bread for dinner, because they think that that's healthier. And if I just told them, no, the bread's very processed, and you teach them what's actually on the food label, and they get off that and eat just real foods, they find that their weight starts to shift. And so it's just, we really have to create that awareness and help people to accept this, because I think right now it's still in its infancy.
Yes, it is. There'll be a lot of denial and so on. So it takes more organizations to come together to kind of
but I
influence
think more
change.
doctors are also becoming aware, because
which is good.
Because in medical school we never taught any of these things, and nutrition is actually something that we are not taught in medical school. So it's whatever nutritional knowledge we have is based on what we kind of hearsay and what the nutritionists and the dietitians teach us. And they are pushing high sugar stuff and low fat things to, for example, if you see a child in a pediatric clinic who needs to gain weight, one of the things that is recommended is a sugary drink, because they believe that pushes up the weight of the child, and it does, but at what expense? Because this child will end up
to their long-term health.
Exactly, being obese later on. So I've trained in a way that we understand nutrition based on science, and I completely agree with what Vishen is saying. And my job is really just to teach people the right way to eat.
So I think what's very important for a lot of the viewers is, what's next?